Remember this shot?
And give Shai Gilgeous-Alexander credit as Devontae sends it. Gets it!
Truly one of the insane moments in Thunder history, and really, any NBA game. Well, what if I told you it actually had something to do with Chet Holmgren?
Okay, I'm not following.
Okay, so stay with me here. If the Thunder win that game, they finish with 25 wins instead of 24, tied with the Indiana Pacers for the fourth worst record in the league for the 2021-22 season. And now a coin flip for lottery odds decides who gets it. The Thunder would possibly go from a 12.8% chance at the number 2 pick to a 10.5% chance. The way it worked out, the Pacers got the 6th pick, that became Benedict Mathurin, and the Thunder got the 2nd pick and selected Chet Holmgren. That's how it goes in the NBA. A single thread can branch off into 1,000 what-ifs, with luck and strategy dancing around each other in perpetuity. And now what we see is the Thunder have assembled a layered roster of versatility, talent, and depth. It's probably the most well-rounded roster in the entire NBA, along with being maybe the most skilled and also probably the deepest. They are a true two-way team, built to bend to any matchup or situation. So, how did they do that? How did a team like this come together? How did one of the most dominant teams in NBA history, a 68-win juggernaut that set historic marks on double-digit victories and net margin of victory, come together? And not just that, but come together so fast. Well, here is the Thunder blueprint. Let's review 3 words: reposition, replenish, rebuild.
Those are really good alliteration. No, I don't want to talk about alliteration.
Sam Presti introduced those themes in 2019.
As I said before, the primary focus for our organization, based on the circumstances that we inherited this summer, is first, we need to reposition the franchise. Second to that, we need to replenish the franchise after 11 years of not ever being able to do that, because we were in such a pursuit for maintaining a team that could get to the postseason and contend in the postseason year after year after year. And then ultimately, we will, just like every team in the NBA or in pro sports, ultimately have to rebuild the team. But that tends to happen organically. I can't sit here and tell you when that process will enact itself. Only that our vantage point and our view is always going to be to create the most and longest runway for success, and not to shortcut that. And that our decisions from this point on are going to be based on generating as much value for the organization as possible, so that we at some point can recreate an elongated period of success like we've been fortunate to have.
That was days after 2 massive trades. First, Paul George, whose acquisition is its own wild story, by the way. But Paul George went to the Clippers, a seismic move that rattled the foundation of the NBA, which led to OKC then trading Russell Westbrook, and don't forget Jeremy Grant, creating a franchise pivot point after having competed at the top of the West for more than a decade, with one of the best records in the NBA, 4 conference finals appearances and a finals appearance in 2012, and playoff berths in 11 of the 16 years since the team had relocated.
Adams gives it back to Russ. Deep shot. Get it! What a perfect ending! Joy!
But the clock was already ticking on the first mountain of the team. But with 2 All-NBA players signed on long-term deals, the Thunder were ready to run it back for at least one more shot. But PG's trade request accelerated all of that, and within it, presented a rare opportunity to capitalize on something. The Clippers were in the mix for Kawhi Leonard in free agency and were eyeing a sweetener to sell him on, pairing with PG. And the Thunder seized on that, essentially presenting their offer as a trade not just for Paul George, but for Paul George and Kawhi Leonard. So in the end, OKC received Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, Danilo Gallinari, and 5 first-round picks, a record for first-rounders in a single trade, plus a couple of first-round pick swaps. In retrospect, this obviously is one of the all-time great trades in NBA history, but beyond that, it also was jet fuel to kickstart repositioning, replenishing, and rebuilding. Most people fixated on the draft haul the Thunder got, which was historic. But now, as we can all see, getting that young 20-year-old guard out of Kentucky ended up being the prize of it all. 2 weeks after that, OKC traded Westbrook to Houston for Chris Paul and more picks. In total, from the 3 deals, 8 first-round picks over the next 7 seasons, plus 4 pick swaps, plus SGA, plus Danilo Gallinari, plus CP3. Reposition. To most, this was all viewed as the beginning of OKC's inevitable teardown. But with a revitalized CP3, the Thunder were one of the league's surprises, winning 44 games and sitting 4th in the Western Conference before the NBA and the world shut down for the pandemic.
Tonight has been postponed. You're all set.
And before that season started, the Thunder signed an undrafted free agent out of Arizona State to a 2-way deal named Luguentz Dort. Dort played in 36 games as a rookie and quickly became a fan favorite, earning a full NBA contract.
And Minnesota turns it over, and it'll be Thunder basketball with 14 seconds left as Dort in his NBA debut.
And after the NBA restarted in the bubble, OKC went to 7 games with the Rockets, nearly pulling the upset behind 30 in Game 7 from Dort. OKC's leading scorer that season, by the way, it was SGA at 19 points per game. But now, it was time to fully reposition, and more importantly, replenish. And it happened rapidly. The first move went way under the radar, especially with the mega trade that was coming soon, but it was the Thunder hiring a complete unknown as their head coach, Mark Daigneault. He was the organization's G League coach, having been in charge of the OKC Blues since 2014, and joined Billy Donovan's staff as an assistant in 2019. Then, the next step, a week later, moving Chris Paul in November to the Suns, along with Abdul Nader in exchange for Ty Jerome, Ricky Rubio, Jalen Lecque, Kelly Oubre, and a 2022 first-round pick. We'll come back to that one. The Thunder were building a true war chest of draft capital stocked with first and second rounders. Next move, trading Dennis Schroeder to the Lakers for Danny Green and the number 28 pick in the draft. This was a move that became a move, with OKC dealing Green, Terrence Ferguson, and recently acquired Vincent Poirier to the 76ers for Al Horford, the number 34 pick, which became Theo Maledon, and the rights to Vasilije Micic, and a 2025 first-round pick, which was top 6 protected. We'll check back on that one in here in a little bit.
The suspense is killing me.
Horford was a bad fit in Philly alongside Joel Embiid and had minimal trade value, but OKC was a perfect landing spot and had a reputation for rehabilitating former stars, just as they had done with Chris Paul recently. A few days later, in a 3-team deal, OKC sent Steven Adams to the Pelicans, and at the time, the headline of it was the Thunder getting a protected first and 2 future picks, along with players to make the salaries work like Darius Miller and George Hill. Plus a supposed throw-in filler named Kenrich Williams, who in the Woj bomb didn't even make it into the story.
Where is he? Where is he?
All in all, before the 2020-21 season, Presti and the Thunder executed 11 trades with 15 teams, marking the most activity for a team in a single offseason since the advent of the NBA draft lottery in 1985. So now on the roster, SGA, Lou Dort, Kenrich Williams, the 3 longest tenured players and the founding fathers of this refreshed era of Thunder basketball. The upcoming season was a tough one, with no fans in the home arena and a 22-50 record. But a major element of this season was handing the keys to the car to SGA and seeing what the Thunder might have as a lead guard. Because again, he was the team's leading scorer the season before, on a playoff team, mind you.
And there is that smooth move from Gilgeous-Alexander.
At one point that season, the Thunder were actually 19-24 behind the combo of SGA and Horford, with some great moments like Dort hitting this game winner.
It's good! And Lou Dort ends it.
But after an injury to SGA, OKC pivoted the season and set their eyes on the draft.
All right, we're back with some breaking news. Woj just tweeting minutes ago, just tweeting this. The Celtics are trading Kemba Walker.
A month before the draft, OKC traded Horford to Boston for Kemba Walker, a 2021 first rounder, and a 2025 second rounder. So, quick recap there. OKC got a first rounder and a second rounder to take Horford, plus Micic, who will factor in later, and then got another first rounder and another second rounder when they traded him to Boston. So for Al Horford, 2 firsts, 2 seconds. Good business.
Yeah, we all love Sam.
The draft lottery that year was one of the biggest, most anticipated nights of the year for OKC. In a draft loaded with talent at the top and seen as a 5-player lottery, OKC had an 11.5% chance at the number 1 pick. But thanks to the trade with Houston for Westbrook, which gave the Thunder a top 4 protected pick, OKC actually had a 25% chance at 2 top 5 picks and a 75% chance of landing at least 1 top 5 pick. The lottery drew Houston at number 2, meaning they got to keep their pick though. And the Thunder, who were most likely to land at 4, were drawn at number 6. OKC took Josh Giddey 6th overall, missing out on Cade Cunningham, Jalen Green, Evan Mobley, Jalen Suggs, and Scotty Barnes.
We don't need him.
Then the Thunder took Trey Mann with the 18th pick, a pick acquired in the PG trade. OKC also had the 16th overall pick, which became Oubre and Şengün, but traded it to Houston for 2 future first-rounders.
So Sam Presti and the Thunder continue to collect first-round assets as Şengün is now going to Houston.
Oh, and remember how the Thunder had Kelly Oubre for like a brief second? Well, they traded him before the season to the Warriors for a top 20 protected first rounder that would become 2 second rounders if it didn't convey. Well, it didn't convey after the Warriors had a terrible injury-filled season. And that second rounder became the 55th overall pick, which became Aaron Wiggins, who, by the way, originally started on a 2-way contract.
You have saved our lives. We are eternally grateful.
So now, SGA, Dort, Kenrich, Giddey, and Wiggs. Replenish. The Thunder's big summer move was signing SGA to a 5-year max extension. There was still a lot of chatter at this time, if you remember, about if SGA was really a franchise-level player, but the Thunder clearly believed in him. OKC rounded out that season 24-58, finishing the last few games playing a lot of players that spent time with the Blue that season. Captain Hook, Xavier Simpson, Jalen Horde, and Yorgos Kalaitzakis. And another one, Lindy Waters, who was signed earlier that season to a 2-way contract after a G League tryout. So let's go back to that Devontae Graham shot. It was now lottery time, and the ping pong gods blessed OKC with the number 2 overall pick, which became, of course, Chet.
The Oklahoma City Thunder select Chet Holmgren from Gonzaga.
The Thunder then traded 3 first-rounders, 2 of which they got from Houston for Şengün, which were both heavily protected picks, by the way, to get the number 11 pick from the Knicks, which became Ousmane Dieng. Then with the 12th pick, which the Thunder owned via the Clippers, and again, the PG trade, it just keeps on giving, they took Jalen Williams out of Santa Clara. And then with the 34th pick, they took Jalen Williams out of Arkansas. SGA, Dort, Kenrich, Giddey, Wiggs, Chet, Ooze, Dub, J-Will. Now, rebuild. On October 13, 2022, the 76ers waived Isaiah Joe, a 2020 second-round pick. With a roster spot available and still looking to acquire talent and explore options, OKC signed Isaiah Joe to a multi-year deal right before the season started. That summer, Chet broke a bone in his foot and was ruled out the entire season. Obviously a major blow to the Thunder, but it did do 2 things. It gave a lot of opportunity to Jalen Williams, J-Will, to play and develop, and secondly, it pushed OKC into extended small ball, with Kenrich Williams starting a lot of games as the Thunder's center. OKC traded Mike Muscala to Boston and landed a 2023 second rounder and a 2029 second rounder. They also sent Darius Bazley to Phoenix for Dario Saric and a 2029 second rounder. OKC finished the season a surprising 40-42 and was the 10th seed in the West, earning a spot in the play-in tournament, beating the Pelicans on the road before falling to the Timberwolves. So now, having missed out on the playoffs, the Thunder were back in the lottery, and with the 12th overall pick, OKC moved up to take Cason Wallace at number 10, and also acquired Davis Bertans in the deal. The Thunder signed Micic, one of Europe's best players, to come over and join the NBA as well. So now on the roster, it's SGA, Dort, Kenrich, Wiggs, Giddey, Chet, Ooze, Dub, J-Will, Ijo, and Queso. OKC signed Adam Flagler to a two-way deal, and then at the trade deadline, with the Thunder sitting first in the Western Conference, they traded Trey Mann, Poku, Bertans, and Micic, plus a couple second-rounders to the Hornets for Gordon Hayward. It was a deal that on the surface was to add some veteran depth to a team making a strong playoff push with a chance to do postseason damage. But really, it had a wider, longer-term branch to it that was about to pay major dividends. Because with Hayward on an expiring contract, the Thunder created some $30 million in summer cap space with this move. This will be important in a minute.
That's called foreshadowing.
The Thunder had won 57 games and finished first in the West that season, the youngest team to ever do that. They swept their first-round series, the youngest team to ever advance in the playoffs, by the way, and lost in a 6-game cage match against the Dallas Mavericks, where the series actually finished tied in total points.
And an exclamation point!
After the dust settled a little bit, the Thunder traded Josh Giddey, who was a 3-year starter, to the Bulls for Alex Caruso.
What has it been like coming back to the city and walking into this building?
Yeah, it's been nice. Some good memories, obviously. This is, like you said, where I started my professional career. So many familiar faces. The continuity of the organization has been great, and I think that'll really help me just, ease back into it, get to know the teammates. The facility's still the same, so I know where everything's at. Just really excited to be here.
And with the 12th pick in the draft via the Rockets and the Westbrook trade, the Thunder selected Nikola Topic. But they weren't done. OKC also added the 26th overall pick, which was Dylan Jones, in a wild deal where they sent 5 second-round picks because they have so many acquired from all those other deals. And then they shuffled around a couple more second-rounders, which eventually sent Lindy Waters to the Warriors and netted them back A.J. Mitchell.
Didn't look right. Mitchell, that three, wide open A.J. Mitchell, the rookie from...
And then there was one more piece to add. With that cap space created by the Hayward trade, $30 million by the way, the Thunder signed Isaiah Hartenstein to a 3-year deal, and also re-signed Isaiah Joe and Aaron Wiggins to extensions. They signed Alex Dukas to a 2-way deal before training camp, plus they added the midseason addition of Brandon Carlson on a 2-way after he'd signed a couple 10-day deals. So now, the roster. Built over a number of years through a flurry of different deals and opportunistic moves, but here's what I really want you to take away from this. There are a lot of ways to build a great team. Drafting, trading, free agency. The Thunder did a little bit of all of that, but so much of this team was organically assembled. SGA was a nice lottery pick, seen to be a good role player that blossomed into the MVP. Lou Dort was an undrafted workhorse that developed into the premier 3-and-D wing in the NBA. J-Dub was at the back end of the lottery, the 12th overall pick, but popped as a player that would go in the top 3 now in a redraft. Isaiah Joe was a waiver wire castoff. Cason Wallace, the 10th overall pick.
Here's Wallace, goes at Jokic. Oh, he throws it down.
J-Will and Wiggs, second rounders, and on and on. The Thunder hit on all of these guys, but what they really hit on was their development. What so many dismissed as seasons spent supposedly tanking, the Thunder were secretly investing in the future of their roster, exploring, understanding, evaluating, developing. Think about this. There is only one player on this Thunder roster that came from a 20-win season from the Thunder. Chet. 1. Dub came via the Clippers. Cason came off of a 40-win season where OKC was in the play-in. Josh Giddey was the only other one, but he was moved for Caruso. So this wasn't some multi-year process of acquiring top 5 picks year after year. This was nailing things on the margins with elite scouting and identification and also elite player development process. And oh, by the way, the Thunder still have 13 first-rounders and 16 second-rounders, along with 4 more first-round pick swaps running through the 2031 draft. They already have the number 15 pick in this upcoming draft from the Heat via the Clippers, yet another one from the Paul George trade. And that Philly pick they got in the Horford deal, well, it was top 6 protected, and it didn't convey this season. But it becomes top 4 protected next season, so there's a very good chance OKC will land it somewhere. Again, for taking on Al Horford, which they then traded him to Boston for more picks. This team is still one of the youngest in the league with its own upside, but also it still has that war chest of draft capital to support it going forward. So there's your Thunder rebuild blueprint. Going from the first mountain of KD and Russ, then Russ and PG, to now SGA and Dub and Chet and everybody else, with so much more to come. 4 years and only 2 seasons without postseason basketball to completely reposition, replenish, and rebuild. That would be hard to even do on NBA 2K.